In You Win, we're going to be working on the goal of our game, which is to make it to the end, dock, and join our squadron. To do that, we're going to add a couple object types, one for the dock, one for the squadron, and we need to add some instance variables to the spaceship so that we can protect it and deactivate it once it docks. Let's get started. First thing we're going to do is unlock our background layer. Then we're going to go to the project bar and we're going to create our dock by inserting a new object type, a sprite named dock with a capital D. You're going to browse to and open the dock. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to zoom out and we're going to adjust the collision polygon. We're doing this because we want the spaceship to have to go to the very end of the dock before a collision is registered. So initially you can set the bounding box and then you can adjust the collision polygon as you see here. So the spaceship's going to have to make it to the end of the dock. And let's set the origin point. We're going to set the origin point to the upper left-hand corner, which is 0, 0. It's going to make it really easy for us to position this on the background layer. Okay, so there is your dock. The next thing we're going to do is set some properties in the properties bar. We're going to set the opacity to 80, and we are going to position it manually, providing it the X coordinate of 0 and the Y coordinate of 160. So it's going to be at the very, very top of our layout, which is what we are striving to make it to. All right, let's insert another object type. This one's going to be for our squadron. I have a pre-established set of planes that are all grouped together. Insert a sprite called squadron with a capital S. And then open the squadron graphic. We are going to set the origin point for this. The X should be 360 and the Y should be 36. That's going to allow us to anchor it based upon its center. That's on the background layer as well. And using the properties bar, we are going to position that manually as well, using an X coordinate of 416 and a Y coordinate of 224. Now we need to use our Z order bar. We got to make sure that the dock and the squadron are at the top of the background layer, just like you see there. To prevent the spaceship from being moved or destroyed once it collides with the dock, we're going to add two instance variables to spaceship. Scroll down to spaceship, right click, instance variables. We are going to add two instance variables. The first one is going to be called vulnerable. It's going to be a Boolean that is initially true because initially our spaceship is vulnerable to being harmed. For description, put whether spaceship can be harmed. By having this instance variable, we can control when the spaceship can be hurt. Let's add another one. We're going to call this one active. It's also going to be a Boolean and initially true. So active specifies whether the spaceship can move or fire. When active is set to false, the spaceship is disabled and the person playing the game cannot move it. For description, make sure it says whether spaceship can move or fire. Active, Boolean, true. So now we have three different instance variables associated with the spaceship. Time to do some coding. Go to your game event sheet and we're going to add a group, and our group is going to be called goal. This is where we're going to put all of our events and actions that have to do with reaching our dock. So right click, create a new group, call it goal. And for description, it's going to be events and triggers involved in successful player actions. Okay, now we need to create the collision with dock event. So let's add event. We want to know when the spaceship collides with another object, specifically the dock. Okay, so that is our trigger. When the spaceship collides with the dock, we want to do a couple things. Let's add an action to set the instance variable for the spaceship, set Boolean, of vulnerable to false. This will prevent the spaceship from being hurt. Let's add another action which disables the spaceship. Go to add action. You're going to choose spaceship and you're going to set the Boolean active to false. Later on, we're going to put in code that prevents someone from moving the ship if active is false. Let's go ahead and disable the scroller. Add action. Go to the scroller. We're going to disable its bullet behavior. This will stop it from moving up the screen. Then we will disable the spaceship's 8 direction behavior. Spaceship, and then under 8 direction you will see that there is a set enabled action. We need to do this so that if somebody presses the keys, the spaceship does not move. So we're basically locking everything down. Make sure it's disabled and done. Then let's make sure we wait for 5 seconds. Add action, system, and under time choose wait and choose 5 seconds. Once the spaceship has collided with the dock and we've disabled everything and waited 5 seconds, we're going to restart the game. And we do that by adding an action, system, restart layout. And go ahead and drag this event, make sure that it's indented within the goal event group. Now let's add a condition to the enemies on collision with spaceship event in the health event group. Right click, add another condition. Choose the spaceship and then the is Boolean instance variable set action. For instance variable, choose vulnerable. What this is going to do is make sure that the spaceship can only be hurt if its vulnerable instance variable is set to true. It's another condition that must be satisfied for those actions to fire. Now, all of the movements in spaceship event group, we want to restrict those to only applying if the active instance variable is set to true. So let's add an event. Go to spaceship, and once again, choose the is Boolean instance variable set. In this case, we care about whether the active variable is set to true. So choose active. What we're going to do is we're going to take this event and we're going to make all the other movement events sub-events of it. Drag it up into the spaceship event group. Now take all of the events by shift clicking on the margin of each event and drag them underneath the spaceship is active event. What this is going to do is prevent people from moving the spaceship unless the spaceship is active. Its active instance variable is set to true. This allows us to enable and disable the spaceship. Go to layers and lock the background because we're done with that. Let's debug. So we want to go to the very end and see if we can make it to the dock. When we collide with the dock, we have satisfied our goal. But we also want to test to make sure that the spaceship cannot be moved or hurt once we collide. There we go. The scroller stops. See how meteors are not affecting the ship? And you can't move it either. At this point in the game, I like to move some of the dynamically created objects up so I don't see them at the very start of a layout. Those are on the FX layer. Make sure you keep things nice and organized. And as always, make sure you lock layers when you're done with them and save your work.